This is the meeting of the Assembly of Government Affairs and Rules Committee on June 1st. Wow. At 4 o'clock. And Owen, if you would go ahead and read the preamble, please, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, Madam Speaker. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting of the Cape Cod Regional Government Assembly of Delegates Standing Committee on Governmental Affairs and Rules will be conducted via remote means only in accordance with applicable law. Members of the public may watch the meeting through live real-time broadcast at www.youtube.com/user/Barnstable County. A public participation guide and meeting documents are available in advance at www.capecod.gov. The County of Barnstable does not discriminate in the administration of its programs or activities on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, disability, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or other category protected by state and federal anti-discrimination laws or regulations. Reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities are available upon request. For more information or to file a complaint, please contact Justina Marchak, Barnstable County ADA Non-Discrimination Coordinator at jmarczak@capecod.gov. Call 508-375-6646 or visit www.capecod.gov. Members of the public may also attend the meeting remotely via Microsoft Teams, and that information is also available on the website. Back to you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. We're going to do some opening ceremonies. If the moment of silence to honor our troops who have died in service and to our county.
That's not on there anymore.
Oh,
I don't think.
It's not on there anymore?
Not for this meeting.
Okay. Is a pledge?
It is not for a committee meeting. That was what I was instructed to do.
And then how about the roll call?
All right. Give me 1 second to pull it up. Having a little bit of trouble.
Sorry about that, folks. We're adjusting things, and I'm not quite sure. There's Elizabeth Harder.
Delegate Gasson is not here yet. Delegate Green?
Here.
Delegate Harder?
Here.
All right. Delegate Killian is not here. Delegate O'Malley?
Here.
Dean Oman?
Here.
And I do see one of our alternates, Deputy Speaker Frizel. So right now we've got 2 members missing. I do expect Delegate Gasson will be here shortly. And so there is an open spot for Delegate Killian's seat, and we only have 1 alternate to fill it. So I assume that's what you want, Madam Speaker?
Yes. Thank you.
All right. So you definitely, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 members in attendance, you have a quorum, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I'm pleased to say that Administrator Michael Dutton was able to join us today because there were quite a few questions about references to the county office and the administrator specifically that really were kind of open-ended, and there were many delegates who were not willing to go further with the ordinance at hand until we had an opportunity to speak with you and Michael, and thank you for being here, and also to kind of get an understanding of what would be required of the county to proceed with the ordinance as presented. And the questions will come specifically from delegates, but it also is an overplay of how do you understand that to be, and what role, if any, does the county have in the execution of what the back end of this ordinance says? So if I may, I'd like to turn it over to you, and we can go from there.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. I didn't realize that my opinion or my input was of some value, so I appreciate that. I will start by just sort of giving you a little bit of groundwork. As you know, the commissioners passed a resolution which had the county adopt essentially the provisions of the governor's executive order 650 and the amendment 655, which really isn't pertinent to the county. and that was done back a month or two or so ago. In the intervening time, we have worked to identify what are considered public areas. And for those that don't know, the executive order placed restrictions on the issuance of civil warrants, and or not the issuance of civil warrants, the execution of civil warrants on state properties, including courthouses, whether they're owned or leased. In the case of Barnstable County, the majority of our space is court property, which is leased from the county. So it's county owned and leased to the court system. So Executive Order 650 does apply to a good 75% or so, I think, of county property. Having said that, we once the ordinance, rather the resolution was passed by the commissioners, we set out to identify what areas are public areas and what areas are private areas. And that would seem to be a very simple, straightforward process. But it begged some some additional research and additional definition of county spaces. So to give you an example, an easy example of public versus private space, if you've been in the leased building that the cooperative extension rents from a private owner in Yarmouth, you come into a very small lobby area. That is the public space in that facility. The rest of it is private space. A little more challenging when you come into administration and finance offices in the Superior Court building. You enter through the main entrance to Superior Court. Because you are not allowed unfettered access there, the public is not allowed unfettered access, then the question is what is public space and what is restricted space. So you can certainly make the argument that the entire building is restricted space. I don't think that was what the governor's executive order meant, but you could make that argument. The more pertinent piece for us is our offices are behind a door that's locked the majority of the time, so it's not accessible space for the public. However, on Tuesdays, or rather Wednesdays, from 10 to approximately noon, that door is open for regional commissioners meetings. So question whether that is considered public space or private space. The same is true with the old jail, where our health department resides, and Owen and Emma are up there as well. So that the door to health is actually locked, and you have to ring a buzzer in order to gain access. So question whether that's public space or private space. So we've been working through some of these issues, and we've been trying to develop defensible guidelines for us internally to judge what is public and what is private space. I think where you will see us coming down on most of it is that most county offices are actually private space. Not making a judgment call whether that's good or bad, but I think that's just in reality. That's where that will come down. So any obviously any signage that we put up will also be subject to some review. I think there's a certain incentive to avoid putting up signage that says basically keep out. That's not, as a public entity, that's not what we want to be advertising to our public. However, we do want to make sure that people understand, and the reason why the signage is there. We want people to understand the reason why the signage is there, but it needs to say something other than skull and crossbones, keep out, and so forth. So we're working on that. We want to make sure that we are accommodating to the public that we serve, to the extent we serve the public. I mean, obviously, most of our work is done with the towns on sort of a different playing field. So in any case, we will develop that signage over the next several weeks, and I suspect, without committing to it, but I suspect that the signage will vary depending on the building and the use of the building, but all with the intent to indicate that that the vast majority of the square footage is private offices, and the public may have access through a process. So that's kind of where we stand right now. And but I am happy. I've got some thoughts on the ordinance, and I think you've had some discussions with one or two of the county commissioners. I don't think there's any debate, and again, I'm just surmising because I haven't been in the weeds on any conversations that you've had with the commissioners, but I don't think there's any particular debate about the general purpose of the ordinance or the general purpose of the resolution. I have some operational concerns, but obviously this is at a political stage right now. So, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I see that Delegate Gessen has a hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a couple questions, but if it's okay with you, Madam Speaker, I'd love to hear some of the operational concerns that the administrator might have before we delve into specifics of the ordinance, and if that's okay with the
Okay.
administrator.
Sure, that's absolutely fine. So I think you could group them into two general areas. One is sort of the administrative burden on staff. While staff understands currently, and will understand a little bit better as we move along, but they understand currently, what the general policy is, sort of understanding what their responsibility is from an enforcement end, I think is an area that I have some concern about. I don't, our staff is, I mean, I won't say we're short-staffed, but nobody's sitting around, their feet up on the table. So we challenge staff to be doing the work that they do, and my concern is, as it would be for any similar thing, is that we're adding more responsibility, more obligations to a staff that is already hard pressed to get the work done. And that's just general. In the particular case of both, I think the resolution and the ordinance here, I have some concerns. Unlike other like communities that have done this, I think Falmouth has taken some initiatives here, and there may be some other Cape Towns that have taken similar initiatives. Unlike those, we avail ourselves of a significant amount of federal funding. And I am concerned that passing an ordinance or even passing the resolution that passed a couple of months ago, does provide the federal government sort of the incentive to crack down on the grants or withdraw the grants that we currently have. And those grants obviously aren't insignificant. We have COC grants. I was at a Shine luncheon today, which was very, very nice, to thank the Shine volunteers. But I am concerned that also benefits from some federal funding. So we have obviously AmeriCorps as well, was another source of federal funding for us. So that's a concern. It would be a concern, anytime we take a position that's contrary to the federal government, especially within the last couple of years. So I guess those are my general concerns.
All right. I see that we have a question from Delegate O'Malley.
Thank you, Speaker. So I agree, Mr. Dutton, with the potential that this causes additional work burden. But But my perspective on that one is that's work that we will do kind of at our own pace over the next little while, putting up signs and delineating and seeing to it that we have a clear hierarchy of responsibility, lines of who to call, and that. And I think my sense about the benefit of this is that it prevents us from getting into a crisis, a chaos situation when suddenly we have a fleet of unmarked vehicles out in the lot, and agents coming in, and everybody's in a panic, and it's kind of all of a sudden last minute. I think we're better getting our ducks in order ahead of time. That would be my concerns about the work burden. Clearly we all worry about adding work burdens to people who already have plenty on their plate. But I'm hopeful that because this can be done at our own pace, clearly there's some urgency, but there's no deadline. That ought to be doable.
And if I could, Speaker,
Yes.
I would just add, I certainly don't want to, if the Assembly votes something, the commissioners vote something, that becomes an ordinance, then obviously, we'll comply with whatever the request is. No doubt about that. And the signage really isn't the concern. The identifying of areas, public and private areas, really isn't a huge concern. I think it's just more the ongoing, training and sort of sensitivity that department heads need to have on this issue, and that's more of it. Is not the immediate burden on staff. That's not a particular concern.
Okay, thank you. Yes, okay, go ahead, Delegate Gessen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I had two questions that come to mind right now, though I'm sure there might be more. The first is for Administrator Dutton. The concerns about federal funding. Was that something you raised to the commissioners when they were considering introducing their resolution? And what feedback did you get in that regard? And part of the same question, do you see President Trump or the rest of the federal administration showing a significant concern difference whether Barnstable County passes an ordinance or an executive order when it comes to our federal funding and these policies? And then I have a follow-up question, Madam Speaker, after that, if that's okay. I'll break it
Okay.
up.
I have pointed out the concern. I point out the concern about federal funding all the time, mostly having gone through the AmeriCorps, the very disjointed process and sudden process that the federal government went through to restrict and revoke our AmeriCorps funding. And I think in fairness, I will always have that concern. And I will always voice that concern anytime, regardless of what administration is, although the current administration is particularly challenging. But I think I would have that concern regardless of administration. Anytime you are sort of voting something that's contrary to federal executive order. So yes, I did voice that. And then the second part of Dan's question went right out of my. I can only remember one thing at a time.
Shall we go to another delegate?
But it
and
was
then
a
come
good
back?
question. I don't want to shortchange Dan. It was
Yeah, no,
very good.
I guess I was wondering, in addition to that, and this wasn't my follow-up question, but I'm happy to have a follow-up to a follow-up. What did the commissioners express as to the balance between, the concerns over federal funding and implementing this policy? When you raise that concern, is there, a line of reasoning that they had, or is there some, anything that they did to essentially mitigate that risk that you're aware of? And then my second question, and this is different, is, we believe, and a number of the sponsors believe of this ordinance, that it goes further than that executive order that the commissioners created. But even if we just limited an ordinance to specifically codifying, what you and the staff are hard at work doing at the county, do you have any reason why we shouldn't move forward with something like that? Effectively, especially if we're just codifying what you're already working on, it seems like it wouldn't have an additional administrative burden. But at the very least, it would be more durable and, be less susceptible to political whims. Is there a reason why we shouldn't move forward with an ordinance, to your mind, if only to codify those aspects, as we further consider, the other tenets of the ordinance that are under consideration?
So I do remember now what the second part of your question was, or the second question in your sort of two-part one. And it sort of plays into what you're asking now. So I think that the idea that a policy could be done by resolution was something that was a little less heavy-handed than doing something by ordinance. Whether that would make a difference at all in the view of federal officials, I have no idea. But I think that was sort of the rationale that I think that was the rationale that the commissioners had when they voted the resolution. In terms of sort of documenting something as an ordinance that reflects current policy, that's obviously a decision for the assembly to make, the delegates to make, and the commissioners to make. Establishing something in our local law that is a current practice, I don't necessarily see any harm in that specifically.
Thank you very much. Delegate Frizel, oh no, sorry. Deputy Speaker Frizel, and then Dean Omen follows. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. So first question, I have two. First question for you, Mr. Dutton. These kinds of sanctuary provisions of law or otherwise have been enacted for some time now in many jurisdictions, not just Massachusetts, other states. When they first first were administering the new immigration policy, there were threats along the lines you're suggesting. But to your knowledge, have any of those threats come to pass? Has any federal funding anywhere been in any way impacted by the enactment of any kind of sanctuary provision?
I do think there have been some instances, specifically in Minnesota, if memory serves, that may have pulled back on federal funding. Whether it's tied directly to sort of the sanctuary jurisdiction issues, I'm not sure, but certainly I think there have been a handful. Having said that, I would reiterate sort of what I've said before. I'm a fairly risk-averse person when it comes to these kinds of things, and it's really because I feel like I have some obligation to the 250 or so employees that we employ throughout the county. So that admittedly a bit risk adverse for that reason. But in sort of the global, the national parameters, I don't think I don't think the fear of mass revocation of grant funding has come to pass, and that's many thanks to the states and the jurisdictions that have filed suit to.
I don't know, for some reason, for me, you're going in and out. Is anyone else having some trouble with Mr. Dutton's?
No.
No.
Loud
I
and
guess
clear.
it's just my internet. Okay, I did get basically what you were saying there. That's fine. I understand that. Now, my other question is, in Section 9 of this ordinance, which is the implementation and enforcement section of the ordinance, it says that the administrator shall be responsible for implementation and enforcement of the ordinance, shall issue such policies, procedures, and guidance as necessary to effectuate its provisions, and it further states that county departments shall adopt internal procedures consistent with the ordinance designate a responsible person for compliance, adhere to any directives issued by the county administrator, and then lastly, any known violation shall be reported to the county administrator and reviewed in consultation with county council, and corrective action may be taken as necessary to ensure compliance. So no doubt, this is adding some additional burden to the workload, your workload, and the workload of the departments. However, I point out this is something externally imposed upon us. It's not something we have generated. It's in response to an external threat, if you might say, or external conditions that have been imposed, potentially imposed on us. But my real question here is, I know this is some burdensome, but is it doable? Do you believe that the provisions in 9 on implementation are doable in a reasonable period of time? I don't expect that you would have all that in place the day after the ordinance, should it be enacted, is enacted. But that it's within a reasonable period of time, you believe it's something that can be done by you and by your department heads.
Short answer is yes, and as I said before, I think if the assembly and the commissioners agree, then that's what we do. You know, that's the action we take. I will say that since you highlighted it, the provision about county departments adopting internal procedures, effectively that would be my office developing procedures for each of the departments. You know, is it of great importance to try to change that language? Probably not, but that effectively is what would happen.
Well, I think it probably wouldn't matter to us if it got done by you, so long as it's something which the department heads were aware of and knew that they were responsible for implementing, like other policies that are adopted by you, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Oh, there we are. Okay, the next, Dino, when you had your hand up, or do you
I
have?
do. I don't know why it happened, but I do have it up.
Okay, there we go. You're number 2, and then Lily Green is the next one, and then Elizabeth Harder.
Okay. Well, my questions are somewhat non-controversial. I'd like to just some clarity. Now, we are the landlords, and the state runs the courts. Okay. Is the governor's 650 executive order already in force in the district and superior courts, both in Barnesville Village and in Orleans?
Correct.
There. So
That
it's
is
already
correct, yep.
in effect.
Yes.
And
So
if we
yes,
had
the executive
additional,
order covers all of the courts, whether they are leased or owned by the state. So yeah.
thank you for that. And secondly, you know, Orleans District Court is ours, but do we have any personnel there whatsoever that could enforce anything there? I didn't know that we would have that. And how would that be effective for, well, whether it be just for the resolution or for the ordinance?
So because we have no presence there, we wouldn't, and the court has 100% presence there, we would not be in a position to have to enforce or account for anything in Orleans District Court. So that's
Thank you. That's
completely
very comforting to know. That's
Yeah.
very comforting to know that the governor's 650 executive order covers those 3 important buildings entirely. That's great. Thank you. I'm all set.
Okay, Elizabeth, let's see, Delegate Green.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, Delegate Harder was actually first before me. Does it matter?
Oh, okay, I just missed that. Shall I ask her for? Yeah, let me do that. Delegate Harder.
I don't care. Lillian can go first.
Go ahead, Delegate Harder.
Oh, okay. So you said like we're gonna have signs and stuff, but that's gonna take weeks. So my first thing is that I'm not sure we have weeks. If just to, I feel like the main purpose for me of this ordinance is to let the staff know that they don't have to do anything they're uncomfortable with doing, and that they'll be protected by us. And so I want them to know that. And I'm worried because the police chiefs have made it very clear that they're not going to get involved. They don't care. If ICE comes, beats people up, they're going to stay out of it. So I know that there's really not going to be a way to enforce this. But I think we just want to make it really clear that we're doing this so that the staff is protected from ICE, and that the people using our buildings for, registering deeds and going, reporting crimes and all the reasons that immigrants might be using our buildings would also be protected. And so I'm worried that we're getting into the weeds with a couple of things of who would enforce it and how in the departments, because honestly, I don't really see much enforcement possibilities except to let our staff and the public know that we will do everything we can to keep ICE from acting abhorrently, and that we will have a record so that should ICE act the way they did in Minneapolis, that we would be able to go to court and say, look, we tried to stop them. They did this, they broke that law. And it's more for a public record to protect everyone. And just in terms of the federal money, we're Massachusetts. They don't want to give us a dime anyway. So I don't think it matters whether we do a resolution or an ordinance. They don't care. They hate us. And they're going to do everything they can not to give us money. So I guess my basic question is, how do you see the best out of what we've proposed in this ordinance? How do you see is the best way to protect our staff and our visitors as soon as possible?
So that's actually a great question, a great statement. So I would say staff understands, they track, the actions of the assembly and the actions of the commissioners, and they understand, that they are protected. I do think there's a level of comfort in that, the county elected officials are there to make sure that staff isn't abused. So I definitely sense that they understand that. And when you talk about enforcement, probably the better phrase in this case, as it pertains to probably both the resolution and the proposed ordinance, probably the better phrase to use is documentation. I think staff understands that their role is to document these things and not, enforcement implies, weapons yielding, people out there, doing battle with ICE agents. I don't think that's the intent of the resolution or the ordinance. So that might be a better way to phrase it. But between documenting what happens and making sure there's a process to run the documentation through the right channels, and then training employees, certainly deputy department level staff, or people staff that interacts with the public significantly. I think making sure those folks are trained on exactly what to do, I do think is important. I may have mentioned First Amendment audits, which I don't know has happened a lot on the Cape, but off Cape it happens with a lot of frequency. And First Amendment audits are essentially people that are trained to go into public buildings, go into municipal office buildings, and with a smartphone recording everything, and they get right up in your face, and they make belligerent comments, and what they're trying to do is just sort of poke at what are public areas, what public official is going to respond to their kind of belligerently asked questions. And it's all under the guise of all this information. They have a right to be in town hall. They have a right to be belligerent. They have a right to be asking all these questions. So it can be quite unnerving if you don't know that this is coming. And I've been in offices that I think 3 or 4 times that have been the subject of First Amendment audits. The first time, you get your face plastered all over social media and all over the website, and they're pointing out all of the errors that you made when you told them you weren't going to give them information, or you don't have a copy of this or that or the other thing. The last time I had a First Amendment audit, the commenters on social media thought it was a setup because we treated them with such with kid gloves, and we accommodated all their questions, and they literally thought that it had some kind of setup. So that all was because of training. And we put the employees through training sessions. We did real life examples. What do you do if this happens? And we did a little bit of role playing. So this is very similar to that these training for First Amendment audits. And so I think what you're really wanting is to make sure that we can document and make sure that we have a staff that is trained appropriately to deal with unpleasant interactions, and that we absolutely would intend to do with this ordinance or without the ordinance under the resolution, either one.
Thank you very much. Okay, Delegate Green, thank you.
And thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Administrator Dutton, for being here and answering questions. I was concerned about that, to be quite frank. I think that the resolution was admirable, and trying to promote an ordinance with the intent to protect people further, I think is really an important ideal. I wanted to just be sure that we were not putting undue pressure on you or the staff in doing so, because we're playing with people's lives, and that is important to me. And so in that spirit, I would like to see the collaboration of you, the Assembly, and the commissioners in moving forward, because that is the goal here. And is there anything, I know it's our purview to pass an ordinance, but is there anything in the ordinance that you would change to make it more realistic for you and for your staff?
Oh, that's a good question. I would, although
And
I
if
have
I'm
it right
putting
in
you
front
on
of
the
me.
spot, you could send us just a memo after the meeting. That would be fine too.
You know what, I think I would take you up on that. I do think there's some areas that might make some sense to sort of rewrite, certainly not change the intent, but I appreciate that opportunity, so I will do that.
And I'm only one delegate, and you know what percentage I have, so I presume that the full assembly would consider whatever you wrote very seriously. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for our administrator? No. Are there any questions from the administrator to the delegates about what's going forward with this ordinance?
I don't think so. No, I appreciate the opportunity to answer questions and just sort of voice some
Well,
concerns.
I just see Deputy Speaker Carl Frizel raising his hand, if we may. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just one quick question, in case maybe Mr. Dutton has better information than we have at the moment. Do you know the status of the House and Senate bills on this issue, the PROTECT Act and the conference, and what's going on there?
I do not, and I wish I had more up-to-date information. I was actually looking earlier today on on the website, which is not always terribly helpful, but it appears just to still be in conference.
And you don't have any inside knowledge about whether it's going anywhere soon or not?
I don't.
Okay.
I wish I did, but I don't.
Okay, just wanted to check. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I see another delegate with a question. Frank Frederickson, go ahead. You're muted.
All right, I got you. Yep. First of all, I don't want to interrupt your meeting, but this is really interesting stuff. I don't want to ask too many questions because you know me, right? I get going on something, but you've spurred on so many different points of view that I honestly believe if we have a different discussion, that there's a better way to accomplish what you want to do to but I'd like to have those conversations in another forum before we go too far. I want to listen to more of what you have to say because I just going through the document that we've had, there are so many potential issues, but there's ways of getting around them in a better way to really, I think, move forward in a better direction, a different direction. So I don't know where you want to go with that. I don't want to take up the time for your meeting. So I'm not part of your board at this point.
Well, thank you. Deputy Speaker Frizzell, do you still have a question? Your hand is still up?
I'm sorry, I forgot to put it down, sorry.
Oh, okay. No. Is there anything else that anyone would like to say at this point? This is the opportunity to speak with the county administrator and express your concerns or support for certain things that may be a part of this that you feel need to be tightened up a little bit. So let's use this in case there's any more things to be said. No.
Well, I'm happy
Okay.
happy to join any meeting. So
Well,
anytime.
thank you, and we appreciate your time. Thank you very, very much. Okay, on to our next. The next discussion is about the charter that is the elected charter that is being proposed and is being run, not proposed, it's a definite thing, on the ballot in the coming months. And what, if anything, as a group, we might want to say about it or establish about it. The saying, let's be clear that the issue is already resolved. It's on the ballot. So wasting any time on, well, we don't think it should be on the ballot is not advisable. The the issues of exactly how it's going to be presented, we don't quite know yet because we've seen very little from the commissioners on this issue, and I understand that they are working on it and have their lawyers looking at a kind of fact sheet. We had proposed to put together a fact sheet, and we certainly don't want to, create a mitigating circumstance where we have a fact sheet, they have a fact sheet, and there's so many different elements in both of them. So I guess this discussion is a little bit open, but I don't want to go by, the outside of it and discuss why we have to do this anyway. We have to. This is something that has been decided, and so your input should be hopefully related to that. So thank you. So the floor is open. No comments. Okay, Doc O'Malley. Delegate O'Malley. You're muted. You're muted.
Oh, yep. Got that. My perspective on this is that we had done a good deal of work. I know personally, I put quite a lot of time into this process a year and a half ago. It was sort of like the beginning of 26, of 25. I put in many hours of reviewing the charter, and I know a lot of the other delegates too. We're people who work with the charter all the time. We reference it. We're pretty knowledgeable about it. And there are many updates and corrections and elimination of now arcane, obsolete language that are needed. I personally feel that this action the commissioners took was not in good faith. It was intended to subvert what was in fact an ongoing process. And so my perspective is that what we should do to respond to that is to encourage a no vote on this, that there is in fact a charter review process that was well underway at the time they proposed it. They knew it, and they chose to undercut it, to subvert it. We can. I think we are in a position to take a vote. This is not a partisan matter. This is a matter that affects county governance, and I believe we're certainly qualified, knowledgeable, and able to make a decision, recommendations on this. Sorry.
Thank you. Let's see, Deputy Speaker Friesel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I see a couple of issues here that need some thought and decision, perhaps by this committee and then by the Assembly. First is whether we take a position, yes, no. I'm sorry, is Delegate O'Malley speaking, or?
No. Delegate O'Malley is in a shop that.
Okay. I just didn't want to interfere if he was wanting to say something and finish up. Okay, so the first issue, or a issue, there's two issues here. One is, do we take a position, yes, no, or neutral? And it would be, seems to me hard to get 15 unanimous votes for anything here. Certainly, we're all entitled to our opinions. We're all entitled to express our opinions. The potential negative to being in some way by vote of the Assembly opposed to this, we appear to be a body that is not open-minded to the potential change of structure. The process that Delegate O'Malley is referring to, I'll call for the moment the quote minor charter process, which is, called for under the charter, and we've done in the past, and is worthy and valuable, looks at the various language that needs to be reformed to better effectuate the work of the Assembly in its existing structure. What the commissioners are seeking is a refresh on whether this structure should be sustained or changed. And under the law on the Charter Commission, one option is for the report of the commission is status quo, no change. That's one of the options on it. So it's not necessarily going to yield a result in a report that says change the structure of the government. But if we come out and say we're opposed to this, I think that will be perceived by a large segment of the, call it the political establishment, and also just the citizens, as not being open-minded to the possibility that a different structure of some kind might be a better form of government going forward. That's one set of issues. Second set of issues, regardless of whether we take a position or not on whether there should be a commission, is I think we need to carefully review the FAQ. I think when we say facts, I think we're talking FAQ, frequently asked questions, that's being prepared by the commissioners. And I think we need to look at what they have produced. The best case scenario is that it's a collaborative FAQ, if that is possible. But if not, then I think we may need to weigh in to prevent misinformation from being circulated about this commission. So I don't know that we can make much progress on our own FAQ without seeing what the commissioners are already in the process with the assistance of counsel putting together in the way of an FAQ. We could be surprised. We could say, you know what, that works. It's it's an honest assessment of what this is. One would hope, with the involvement of attorneys, that that could be the end result. And it being a strictly very nonpartisan, if you will, non-opinionated document that simply informs the public of what this is and what it can do, so people know what it is, because that is probably the first question on most voters' mind right now. What is this thing? So that's for the second segment. I don't know that we can make much progress until we see what's being produced there by the commissioners and see whether it's something we can join or something we need to have our own point of view concerning that FAQ. That's my comments for now.
Thank you. Delegate Harder and then Delegate Green. Oh, yeah, Delegate Harder, then Delegate Green.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I agree that I do not believe the commissioners were acting in good faith. I do believe it's I agree that we need to see what they're going to say, because we need to be able to respond or perhaps agree. But I want to make it. I do think we need to make it clear to people that our charter review would not have stopped at cosmetic changes and updates. I had a full proposal ready to bring before the Charter Review Committee about how to change the structure of county government. I think we all thought that was going to be part of the discussion until the commissioners shut it down. And so I do think, regardless of what happens, we need to make it clear that we're not doing this to dig our heels in and say everything's fine. Because I don't think everything's fine, and I do think there are some things that need to be changed. I'm only sorry that the other thing that I think we need to point out is that I don't see the best way of reorganizing, streamlining, whatever, county government be done by people who don't know what county government is or does. And nobody knows if it's a fair process at the ballot. Then we could get people elected to it that have no idea what the county does. I've learned lately that many people in Harwich have no idea what the county does, how it works, what's the difference between the commissioners and the assembly and the Cape Cod Commission. So I would like to point out to people that we're not averse to change, that it's a little scary having people who don't know anything about it be the ones to decide it, and that I just, until we know what the commissioners are going to do, I think what we can do is at least try to explain to people when they ask us about it, what the county does and how it works now. And so that at least they'll be a little more informed when they're trying to make any decisions. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Delegate Green.
Uh, Thank you, Madam Speaker. Okay, so I do agree with the other two delegates that had said that the commissioners' actions were disingenuous and they did not want to collaborate with the assembly, and they just cut off the assembly's work. And I do think it's really critically important for us to find out the timing of what the commissioners say in their FAQ and to find out if it's possible, as far as the timing is concerned, for the assembly to thoughtfully put together our own FAQ, or I'll be open-minded to say, or agree with what the commissioners have put together. You know, I do understand that they are using an attorney, and I do think it may be very wise for the assembly to do the same, and a different attorney, in fact. And I do think it's our responsibility to inform the public. And inform the public that the assembly was working on a charter review that would cost the the taxpayers of Barnstable County nothing. And it would, and also would because I, like Delegate Harder and other delegates, had gone through the charter and made specific recommendations to get a full view of some of the issues that I feel need to be addressed and clarify roles, which I think is probably the fundamental basis of everything, is just the clarification of roles and the cleaning up of the language. I think that's really critically important. And I think that it's incumbent upon us to make sure the public knows that what the commissioners are proposing, I don't know, is really a waste of time and money. I mean, it's a waste of our time and the public's time, because it's going to push the timeline way out. I mean, if we were doing the work that we were charged to do, that would not have happened. And it's a waste of money. It's going to cost the taxpayers a lot of money, and nothing may be resolved. So I'm very opposed to what's going on, and I would encourage delegates to take a real close look at the charter, and I think it's our responsibility to make sure the public is very clear about the reality and the truth behind this. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate O'Malley and then Dean Oman.
So with respect to the question of the FAQs that the board is putting together, I would point out that this decision was made by them, what is now, 9 months ago. And there has been no effort to coordinate with us, to collaborate with us in any way on what these FAQs are. And I think one can only read from that this is a process that they intend to push forward with for purposes of their own. And I think it's kind of clear that one of the most fundamental, if we look at where our own review was going back a year and a half ago, where we were going was to try to define clearly what the role of the assembly is in the financial decisions. They were trying to create a perspective that the assembly was somehow the advisory body, leaning on the old language in the original charter, and you know, this is that executive legislative push-pull that they clearly want to sideline the assembly from that, and I think that's got to be where they're going, because the rest of this stuff is not why they got their backs up. The rest of the stuff about arcane language is not why they've sidetracked our work. It was because we were starting to hone in on being very clear what is the role of the assembly in the process of budget and approving expenditures. And so as regards waiting for their FAQs, we know these are not going to reflect the perspectives that we bring to this. They are going to be intended to reflect the commissioner's own prejudices and perspectives on where they want to see this go. So you know, given that, I will state my position earlier. I don't think we're going to see collaboration. I don't think we're going to see it. I think we should oppose this question. Period.
Okay, thank you. Delegate, or not delegate, oh my goodness. Dean Omen, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, as usual, the delegation of Assembly of Delegates is very thoughtful and probably very correct about all of these assumptions. But I want to get right to the fact. Okay, there's 15 members being elected, and either you run for it or find somebody of like-minded that will run for it too, because it's going to happen no matter what we say. I think we should put together our own frequently asked questions sort of thing. That let them know what we think that the facts are too, and put it out ourselves. I mean, I think that's the only way you can do it. But really, when push comes to shove, get somebody on that commission. I've already pulled papers. I've already got my certification. I'm running for that commission as well, because I think that way I will have a voice, regardless of anyone else, about what I think about the Charter Commission. And I encourage everybody on this meeting and everybody on the Assembly to either run yourself or find a like-minded person and help them directly understand what this charter is. That's all. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and that's all I have to say about it. Thank you.
Delegate Green, your hand is still
Yeah.
up? You're okay?
No,
Oh, okay.
it is. I mean, I just want to make the point that I think that the clerk should be on this as far as the timing of the FAQ. I mean, if these things are going to be printed in the state book, I mean, I don't think the assembly should be blindsided. And you know, I'd like to be open-minded and think that the commissioners are going to do their work, you know, before the last day that it can be filed. But I mean, they did go forward with this, so I think we should be realistic, and we should have the time to put together. I mean, you know, if they're not forthcoming in what they're doing, I think we should have the time to be able to structure something for ourselves. So I think it's really important that we do have the timing, because believe me, I've been on the other side of something that doesn't even make it into the booklet, and people are blindsided by questions that end up on the ballot. So I don't want the public to be in that position where we haven't done our job, and I think that is critically important. And you know, I've been a proponent of checks and balances since day one, when I've been a citizen advocate, and the entire time I've been on the assembly. And I mean, we know why the commissioners are doing this. And, you know, and that's the reason why I was asked to be on the assembly was for the vote. I mean, the 1.5% put the vote back to having the assembly. I mean, it was going to go in a different direction if my vote went a different way. I mean, that's too scary to just leave to chance. I think we need to dot our I's, cross our T's, and just be proactive. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for a moment, Clerk Fletcher, I saw that your hand was up, but it's down now. Did you have something to say?
I put my hand up because the clerk, singular plural, was mentioned. I don't know that I need to talk now, but
Okay, thank you. So let's see, over to Deputy Speaker Frizel and then Delegate Harder.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I was wondering whether the clerk would inform us whether there is a time, because I think a timing here, what that timing is. I think Delegate Green is right that we can't let something go into the material circulated to voters concerning this question on the ballot without having our input on that. So I just don't know what the process is there, and I don't know whether the clerk can today tell us or not, but if not, we've got to find out what it is and when we would have to put any material we want to put in, because I do agree that there's a very good chance the commissioners are just going to go forward and never ask us anything, never ask us to participate, and just put something in, if that's what happens, that is their point of view. And I don't think that that's right. So do you know, Mr. Clerk, what that process is and timing is right now?
one, I'm not entirely sure that county questions go in the book that the state
Yeah,
produces.
I'm not either. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, and I can double check with the elections division to make sure. We have been talking with executive branch staff about what they're putting together, and I haven't been told yet that we're not going to coordinate. My understanding is a draft is with the attorney that the assembly also chose to be our charter commission, or our charter council, and that she's reviewing the information. And what I understand at this point is that once that review is complete, that we'll sit down, at least the senior executive branch staff and myself and maybe whoever the speaker of the body designates to do so, and take a look at it and make sure to the extent that we can that the assembly and the board are speaking about facts with the same documents. And so we've been doing that and working on it, and so we're just it's being reviewed by council, which in this case is the same council. So once we get something back, we'll have a better sense of what's going on. Or
So-
certainly if the coordination and communication stops, I can let you guys know.
Yeah, I think it's important we stay on top of this because we don't want the clock to run out. Either we putting something in or not. We want to make sure we have time to put it in circulation, even if it doesn't go into a book that is given to voters on ballot questions. One other quick point I wanted to make was if we do go out and take a position that we are opposed to this commission, I do think it would be important, along the lines of what Delegate Harder mentioned, that we don't simply say no and leave it at that. I think we should be positive in saying that we believe in a process that doesn't require the expenditure of money to get to a result that we all want, which is open to a form of government that works. And we're not saying we must keep, no doesn't mean our only position is status quo and nothing but status quo. So I think that's not a winning argument, frankly. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Delegate Harder.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. One, it's not in the state book. We had the lovely woman who's in charge of elections for the Secretary of the Commonwealth speak to the League of Women Voters. And I specifically asked if because she made a joke about, how many petition articles there were. And then she said, and then the county has their own too. And I said, but we're not in the book, are we? And she said, no. So the state red book will not cover the charter article. So that we're going to have to publicize on our own, whether it's together with the board or whether it's apart or who knows, but it will not be in the red book. The other thing is that, I think we need to remind Um, it might be helpful to remind the commissioners that this may not work out the way they hope. Because the people I know that do know how the county works think it's very, think the towns would be very averse to not having representation when they're paying for it, when they're paying for the county government. And meanwhile, the commissioners break open meeting law anytime two of them have a conversation. So, you know, depending on who we get, structural change of the county is all well and good, but it's not a foregone conclusion. And then third, my question is, what lawyer? Are we talking Lauren Goldberg or are we talking Tallerman, whatever? I'm sorry if I may ask the clerk, Madam Speaker, because we had two lawyers.
Let's see. Owen, can you address that? Which lawyer we're working with on this particular case?
Well, we aren't working with anybody currently. However, my understanding is the person who's reviewing whatever it is that got created by the executive branch is Lauren Goldberg, because
Okay,
general
that's
counsel is KP Law. And although, as far as I know, Michelle Randazzo still runs point on a lot of things that the county does, the assembly chose to retain Lauren Goldberg specifically as charter counsel rather than give that responsibility to me, Talleyrand. And so that's who we're working with. That's who is with us to give a
Thank you.
presentation at the last meeting. So
I appreciate that. Before I go to, is your hand still up, Elizabeth? No, okay. Before I go to Delegate Green, I will make a point to call Mark for us tonight and make an appointment for us to get together in the next couple of days and see if I can get some clarity from him directly. And also to express our desire to collaboratively put out a pamphlet that explains the points of view, not politically, but certainly from the standpoint of clarity for the audience, and see if that's something that he had anticipated based on having the attorney look at it before he showed it to us, or what's going on. But I'm happy to do that, and I will do that tonight and try to get the meeting in the next day or so. Okay, now we're over to Delegate Green.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and that's admirable of you to do that. I do sincerely appreciate that, and I wish you the best of moving forward with collaborating with the commissioners. Again, I really do a heartfelt thank you to go in that direction. I do want to ask that the clerk have it in writing that there is nothing in the reg book about this question. I do think it's important to get, again, dot our i's, cross our t's. It's easy for somebody to say, oh, later on, oh, well, you know, so-and-so in a meeting said X, Y, Z. I think we're dealing with the state. I think we're dealing with people who want to promote a certain position. And I think it's really critically important that we do get this in writing, that it is or is not, and if there are any deadlines, that we get that in writing as well. And I do agree with Delegate Friesel saying that, it's not just a no vote that we explain the situation. I mean, I think that it makes a lot of sense as well. Thank you so much.
Okay. Are there any other questions at hand or comments? Okay. So I think we know the direction we're going in at this point, and I appreciate everybody's input and their points of view. So I think that's it. for what we have for today. So I propose that we adjourn. Would that be correct, Owen?
Yeah, if all the business is taken care of on the calendar and no one else wants to be recognized, I think you can adjourn the meeting
I just
yourself.
see that Deputy Director Freisel's hand went up. Yes.
Well, I just wanted to, before leaving this discussion, see if there's consensus as to what we're at the moment thinking of moving forward. I take from the discussion that you are going to be in contact with the chair of the board, that we're
Yes.
going to, at this point, proceed with the possibility of collaborating on FAQ,
Yes.
that the clerk will dot the i's, cross the t's, as Delegate Green has proposed, to make sure from the official source at the State Secretary of State's office that this is not something which will be in the question of the ballot box information for voters. And so we don't have to worry about that timing. And then, depending on how your meeting goes with the board chair, then we will reconvene at some point to discuss how we deal with our own or combined FAQ, as well as potentially from that point forward, seeing whether we want to move forward on an official position for the entire
Okay.
assembly.
That's fair. Okay. Does everybody agree with that? Okay. I see Elizabeth Harder's hand up again, I think.
Just for a quick second, if Delegate Frederickson has things he'd like to discuss about the immigration thing, I don't know if we want to do that this Wednesday, because I want this done. We can't keep postponing this. ICE is here, and we need to make sure we protect everybody. So I'd really like to have at least have a discussion, continue the discussion about the immigration ordinance. Thank you.
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking for, Elizabeth. I'm sorry. Could you explain it again?
The question of county response to ICE, and that ordinance that we have been discussing all afternoon. I understand there are still questions on it, and certain delegates have made it clear there are issues they want to discuss about it. So let's discuss them this Wednesday, because we've got to take action on this. People might not, even if they decide they don't want to vote for it, or we decide we're not going to do something about it, by the numbers. ICE is here, and we have a large immigrant population that is starting to grow right now because of the J1 student and the summer workers, and the fact that the federal government changed the laws so that legally, people that are here legally with green cards are now here legally, unless they go home. So it's getting ugly now, and I really don't want to put this off for another month or two. So I'd really like to do whatever we can to move forward these discussions so we can get something done to protect people.
Thank you. Owen, Clerk Fletcher.
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Is this something that we could address on the upcoming agenda for the 3rd?
The business calendar already came out. this is not on it. You can always revise the business calendar. However, the assembly did vote to postpone this, not just till they heard from the administrator, but until there was some sort of indication on how the conference committee would turn out. That was the vote that you took at the last meeting. You can always
Until there was somewhat.
information from the conference committee on the Protect Act. And so that's the vote that you took.
Okay. So has that committee met?
Not that I'm aware of. And there was a member, there, I believe was a member of Senate staff, state Senate staff on this call. And I can certainly reach out to the people that I know who work on the staffs of the delegation members. But I don't know that there's any progress. I can find out.
Please find out and well, let's talk about that tomorrow, because if we can't get it on this, where did Elizabeth go? If we can't get it on this agenda, I would like to make sure that we get it on the next one. Okay? Can we do that? Okay. Yes, Deputy Speaker.
Madam Speaker, would it be appropriate to ask Delegate Frederickson if he has concerns about the ordinance, that he give us some proposed amendments, and we could consider whatever amendments he thinks would be appropriate for the ordinance? I mean, amendments in writing, so that we could deal with his concerns in an orderly fashion.
Yeah, I'd be happy to call him and ask him to give us some his concerns and amendments form, so that we could address that at the next, if not this meeting, the very next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
A good idea. Thank you. Anything else from anyone? Thank you all for making yourself available. I know time is expensive, and it really matters that you are willing to participate and offer your insights as we move through current issues, and also address new issues that crop up that would make us all better. So thank you for that. Enjoy the rest of the evening, and that's it. We're
Thank
adjourned.
you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.